Jesus, Noah says turn the other cheek and stuff, but ain't there a way to not get walked over but still be Christian?
A way to not be walked over but still be Christian. I mean, I guess like, what do you define as being walked over? Like,
Stand up for yourself.
I'm tempted to give the quick answer of no, but no, you can stand up for yourself. But again, what do you mean by that? Stand up for yourself is such a vague sentence.
I mean, like
What do you mean by that?
when they threw stones at them.
Keep in mind you're talking about the Chosen's scene, which is it's a visual rendition. Um,
Yeah.
the story in Luke, the people don't actually throw stones at them. I think what happens is they just resist the gospel, or they refuse them completely, But
Yes.
I hear the general thing that you're saying. Is there
We
it
shouldn't be
feels like
treated
what you're
like
asking is there a place for self-defense? It feels like that's what you're asking.
we shouldn't have to be feeling like somebody's better than us. Like we should all be equal on one accord. Like it's not
Who is all? Who is we all should be equal on one? Who is the all?
everybody should treat others the way they want to be treated.
Well, of course they will, but why would you expect every non-Christian to hold to that standard?
Because it's humanly it should be wanting to treat it. I know it comes from the Bible of our humanity and stuff, but you should be able in your mind. I should not treat this person like this.
Okay, agreed, but when you're talking about people that don't follow Jesus, not all of them are gonna, like, of the people that don't follow Jesus, there's gonna be a portion of them, I would say all of them, but there's gonna be a portion of them that are
Mhm.
extreme in their desire to just subjugate people.
Right. Well, I'm
Yeah,
talking about like
duh.
bullies and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
bullies. Yeah, people that engage in bullying are deliberately not following what Jesus had to say. So again, I'm just like, where's the shock? Oh, the
Yes,
bully shouldn't be bullying. Yeah, I know. Tell the bully that. They
but that's
probably
what I'm
won't
saying.
listen to you though because they're a bully.
But we should be able to stand up and say, "Hey, this is wrong. You shouldn't do this."
Okay, I think
There's
you misunderstand.
consequences to your action.
I think you don't understand what turning the other cheek actually means. If you think turning the other cheek means that you can't call people out, you don't understand what turning the other cheek means. Let me show you in the Beatitudes, I think it is. Um, yeah, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Were the prophets silent?
No.
No. Did the prophets turn the other cheek?
What do you mean turn the other cheek?
You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, right?
Right.
And it does say that in the Old Testament, right?
Yes.
Okay, what does it mean? Eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Because if you don't understand what this means, you're not going to understand the next three verses.
The eye for tooth.
Or,
Like if you
sorry, the
murder
rest of the
somebody,
chapter, actually.
if you murder somebody, I have the ability to murder you.
Who has the ability to do that?
The person, family or the judge that was in charge of the basically judges in the Old Testament.
Okay, are you a judge?
No.
Okay, so does eye for an eye apply to you in that way? Do you get to act out the punishment of an eye for an eye law if you're not a judge?
No.
Okay, but when we quote eye for an eye, colloquially, what we typically are trying to say is, I personally am going to get you back. You did something wrong to me, so I'm going to get you back, even though you're not a judge.
Right.
Right? Eye for an eye is about legal justice, but we quote it to justify our own revenge, separate from the legal system.
Yes.
And that's what Jesus is getting at. You've heard that it was said an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I'm telling you what it actually means. Don't resist the one who is evil. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. If anyone would sue you and take your tunic, Let him have your cloak as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to the one who begs from you, and don't refuse the one who would borrow from you. You can still pursue justice, but you can't pursue revenge. That's not what an eye for an eye ever meant. And, if you actually go back and read the Old Testament, you'll see that. But Jesus is also setting the stage to call them to something higher. You have heard that it was said, "You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy." Um, let's see, what is the verse it brings up? Leviticus 19:18 and 19. It only says in Leviticus, "You shall love your neighbor." It actually doesn't mention hating your enemy in Leviticus 19. That hate
Mhm.
your enemy part is stuff that people added on, right? You're not like in Leviticus chapter 19, you're not going to find "you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy." I'll prove it because Leviticus 19 is a really cool chapter. Leviticus 19:18. If it'll, oh, that would help to actually put a colon. Leviticus 9, and it would help to spell it right. Good Lord. 19:18. Literally, it says it right here. Right here. You shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord.
Mhm.
Right? The people
Yes.
were twisting what Leviticus said. They heard, "Love your neighbor and hate your enemy," even though that's not what was actually written. But Jesus says, no, love even your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Why? So that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. But Jesus, how does it make me like the Father in heaven to love my enemies? Since when does God love his enemies? A person might say. And Jesus is going to say, all the freaking time, every day, literally, he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good. He sends rain, to water crops to feed people. He sends
Mhm.
rain on the just and the unjust. If you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Even the tax collectors do that. If you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Even the Gentiles do the same. But you have to be perfect, as your heavenly Father is perfect. You got to be perfect in your love. And perfect in love is, you know your love is perfect when you can love the unlovable. You know your love is perfect when you can love the unlovable, just like God does all the time in the Old Testament, right? Again,
Right.
this is stuff that we miss all the time. Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. The Lord said to Abram, "Know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, Egypt, and will be servants there in Egypt, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age, and they shall come back here in the fourth generation." Why is God going to wait 400 years to do this? This is why. That right there is why. The iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. In other words, the Amorites are bad, but they're not so bad as to earn, divine judgment from the heavens type of bad.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so you're going to give them time to repent. Okay, makes sense. How much time are you going to give her? Are you going to give this nation to repent of their sin? Keep in mind, one of the sins of this people was child sacrifice to demonic false gods. They did other things too, but I probably can't imagine too much worse than taking your babies and boiling them alive and burning them alive in flame pits and stuff. Um
Wow.
that's the sort of stuff they would do, right? Abram was one of those people that grew up in a culture of child sacrifice, right? That's why when God told him to sacrifice Isaac, Abram wasn't shocked at that. Abram was shocked that God would stop the sacrifice because what he's used to is false gods wanting child sacrifice. So for this new deity to put his foot down, no, I really actually don't want human sacrifice. That is when Abraham was shocked, right? But
Mhm.
guess how much time God gives the Amorites to stop killing their children in flame pits?
400 years.
400 years. Tell me again how the God of the Old Testament isn't merciful. This is basic morality. I'm giving you 4 centuries to just stop putting your babies in ovens.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't stop doing that, by the time Israel gets freed, God says, all right, I'm going to use Israel to kick you guys out of the land. You guys had 4 centuries, you didn't want to repent.
Yeah.
What's
I'm starting to
what's
see
it
it now.
just what's a just God to do? Remember Sodom and Gomorrah. God would have spared the whole area for how many righteous people?
10.
10. Oh, but I guess that's not merciful enough. I'll spare the whole tri-state area for 10 decent people.
So tell me why you think that people say that
Because they don't
old
read.
and they
Because they
what
don't read.
see they just see the hippie Jesus basically.
Because they
Eh,
don't read.
hmm.
They don't read the Old Testament, they don't read the New Testament, but they think they know both. Insane. Insane. But, people do it all the time. People don't research stuff, but think they know what they're talking about everything. So I'm not surprised that people do it about the Bible too. But yeah, like that's what's going on. All people know of the Bible is, God kicked out Adam and Eve and the flood and I'm like, okay, that's cute. You can give me 2 stories without context. You don't actually know why the flood happened. You don't really understand why they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, but you're
Yeah.
so sure God's a meanie face.